How's it going, everybody? C-RadTV back here in our video. So, of course, another week of NFL football upon us, and it means it's time for the NFL Week 17 picks. So, we're in the final 2 weeks of the season, where playoff implications on the line, tank bowl implications on the line, seeding on the line. Last 2 weeks will decide who will have a chance to make it into the playoffs this year, and who will be sent home in the playoffs. So, of course, last week for the NFL. Last week I went 10-6 with my picks, so my record this year goes to 152, 86-2. Of course, last week Cincinnati, Baltimore, and the Los Angeles Chargers, all three clinched playoff spots. So now 5 spots remain in the playoff. 5 spots remain with 9 locked up. So yeah, the playoffs are starting to heat up. Like 3 spots remain in the NFC, 2 spots remain in the AFC. So yeah, and also last week Indianapolis, Cleveland, and Atlanta were all eliminated from playoff contention. So that means we still have 10 imposters still at large. But yeah, anyway, another week of football. Let's go into it and jump into the picks and see how the playoffs shape out this week. So starting off, we have our Thursday night game. Dallas Cowboys, Tennessee Titans playing in Tennessee. Of course, even though there's really no implications in this game, Dallas can officially clinch the first wild card spot and the 5th seed with a win. Officially. If they win this game, they clinch the 5th seed. Tennessee, regardless of if they win or lose this game, Tennessee's Week 18 matchup with Jacksonville will determine who wins the AFC South regardless of what happens. So for this one, I'm going to say Dallas takes this one over Tennessee. Just Tannehill's been injured a lot. Malik Willis has struggled a lot. I think Dallas takes advantage of the situation. I think Cowboys win this one. I got Dallas over Tennessee 23-19. Give me the Cowboys by 4 in this one. And time for our next matchup, which is this week's Tank Bowl. So this Tank Bowl matchup sees the Arizona Cardinals and the Atlanta Falcons playing in Atlanta. 2 teams eliminated. Who really gives a shit about this game? You know, you got Desmond Ridder versus a fucking backup scrub from off the road. So I'm going to say Falcons win this one. I think, like for Arizona, I think the team has completely given up on Cliff Kingsbury. Kingsbury is a dead man walking. I got the Falcons winning this one 24-22. Atlanta by 2. And oh, by the way, the Arizona Cardinals retirement home nickname is officially back in business, as it was announced earlier today that J.J. Watt will be officially retiring from the NFL after 12 seasons. Happy retirement, J.J., but J.J. Watt deserves so much better than what he had. Easily one of the greatest pass rushers to never win a Super Bowl. J.J. deserves so much better. What a shame. So, to our next game. We have Chicago Bears, Detroit Lions playing in Detroit at Ford Field. Of course, the Lions season on the line. Detroit can be eliminated from playoff contention with a loss plus a win from Washington. Detroit's not losing this one. I got Detroit beating Chicago 20-18. I got Detroit winning by 2, and I think Detroit will keep their season alive, as I think their playoff fate will be decided in Week 18 in Green Bay next week. Spoiler. All right, to our next game. Denver Broncos, Kansas City Chiefs playing in Kansas City. Of course, for the Broncos, this will be their first game in the post-Nathaniel Hackett era, as it was announced Monday. Yeah, Black Monday has come early, 2 weeks early this year, because Nathaniel Hackett was officially fired after 15 games with a 4-11 record. Yeah, Nathaniel Hackett's entire tenure in Denver was a complete fucking disaster from start to finish, you know. It was on full display that he was way over his head. It was nowhere near worthy of a coaching job with how he fucked the dog against Seattle in Week 1, you know, and just, I think the main problem is Russell Wilson. But I'll just say this, Russell Wilson will have no more excuses next year to not perform up to his contract. But yeah, and also word on the street is for the Broncos was that Nathaniel Hackett was mainly only brought in just so they could try and lure Aaron Rodgers from Green Bay over to the Broncos. But since Rodgers chose to stay with Green Bay, that plan obviously backfired, and then just Hackett became a dead man walking. He lost the locker room. The offense has been complete ass under him. There was a lot of fighting on the sideline. It was just a complete fucking mess, and the Broncos have now become the biggest shit show in the NFL. I think the Broncos will rally and keep it close with the Chiefs, but I'm not buying it not buying it. Kansas City also still trying to keep up with the Bills for the first seed in the AFC. So, I got the Chiefs winning this one over Denver. I got the Chiefs 23-20. Give me Kansas City by 3 over Denver. Now, to our next game. We got Miami Dolphins, New England Patriots playing in Foxborough. Miami can clinch a playoff spot with a win plus a New York Jets loss. New England is eliminated from playoff contention with the loss. So, both teams, Miami trying to clinch a spot, New England trying to keep their season alive. Also, for this game, Tua Tagovailoa's status is in question because he is once again under concussion protocol. I believe it's the second or third time this year. Again. So he's may or may not be cleared in time for this game, so Teddy Bridgewater might be in. But yeah, Miami going up to New England in this time of year, with New England trying to keep their season alive. Yeah, I think New England gets their revenge from week 1. I think the Patriots will beat the Dolphins at home. I got New England beating Miami 22-21. I got New England by 1. And I think Miami and New England seasons will all hinge on week 18 next week. See, I think both their fates will be decided next week. So, to our next game, we got the Indianapolis Colts, New York Giants playing at MetLife in New York. Giants can clinch a playoff spot with a win or losses from Washington, Detroit, and Green Bay, or losses from Washington and Seattle, or losses from Seattle, Detroit, and Green Bay. So yeah, a lot of different ways for the Giants to clinch a spot. Yeah, I think the Giants clinch a spot. The Colts have just been a complete fucking mess after firing Frank Wright. Firing Frank Wright did nothing to fix the problem in Indy. Jeff Saturday, he's not going to be back next year. That's safe to say. The only way he comes back is if he kisses Jim Irsay's ass hard enough. But we'll have to see. There's zero chance in that. But yeah, I got the Giants winning this one 24-20. I got the Giants beating the Colts by 4. And I think the Giants, despite a bit of their late season slump, I think the Giants will still clinch their way into the playoffs, and I think the Giants will be in the playoffs this year. So yeah, I do think the Giants will lock up their spot this week. All right, to our next game. New Orleans Saints, Philadelphia Eagles playing in Philadelphia. The Eagles can clinch the NFC East with a win or a Dallas Cowboys loss. The Eagles can also clinch the number 1 seed in the NFC with a win or losses from Dallas, San Francisco, and Minnesota. And the Saints, their season's on the line. The Saints can be eliminated from playoff contention with a loss or wins from Tampa Bay and Washington, or wins from Tampa Bay, Detroit, and Green Bay. Well, yeah, I think the Eagles win this one over the Saints. The Saints have just not been the same. The Saints are just a bit of a mess right now. I think the Eagles, Jalen Hurts is expected to try and play this one in to try and get that win in Week 18. But yeah, I got the Eagles winning this one over the Saints 24-21. I got the Eagles by 3 over New Orleans. And I think Philadelphia will not only clinch the NFC East, they will officially be the first seed. And I think the road to Super Bowl 57 will indeed go through Philly this year. All right, to our next game. We got Carolina Panthers, Tampa Bay Buccaneers playing in Tampa Bay. The Buccaneers, they can clinch the NFC South with a win. The Carolina Panthers are eliminated from playoff contention with a loss. So Carolina wins. Their fate is decided next week. If Tampa Bay wins, then they lock up the NFC South. And that also effectively eliminates New Orleans and Carolina in the process. Yeah, I think the Bucs get this one over Carolina. As much as the Panthers have fought under Steve Wilkes, I think they'll just fall short. I think Brady's starting to get a bit hot at the right time. And I think the Bucs will win this one 22-19 despite all the turmoil. I think Tampa Bay wins by 3. And I think Tampa Bay will clinch the NFC South and will lock their way into the playoffs and will more than likely play Dallas in the wild card round. So yeah, I do think Tampa Bay will win and clinch the South, and I think they'll play the Cowboys in the first round. Now to our next game. We got the Cleveland Browns, Washington Commanders playing in Washington. Now, Washington has a bit of an interesting situation because Washington, they can officially clinch a playoff spot this week. It clinched the final spot with a win plus losses from Seattle, Detroit, and Green Bay. At the same time, Washington can also be eliminated from playoff contention with a loss plus wins from Detroit and Green Bay. So if the Lions and Packers win and Washington loses, and that means the game between Detroit and Green Bay next week will be for the final playoff spot. But yeah, if Washington wins, then Washington's hopes stay alive for another week, and it will come down to Week 18. But yeah, I feel like Washington's hopes come down to Week 18. The Browns have just been a bit of a mess. There's a decent chance that Kevin Stefanski could get fired by the Browns. Time will tell there, but I got, and there's also QB controversy between Heineke and Carson Wentz. But I feel like Heineke will get the start for the Commanders this Sunday. And I got Washington beating Cleveland 25-17. I got Washington by 8. And I think Washington will keep their hopes alive and their fate will be decided next week. All right, to our next game. We got the Jacksonville Jaguars, Houston Texans playing in Houston. Like I mentioned with the Thursday night game, regardless of what happens between Jacksonville and Tennessee, that they cannot clinch the division this week no matter what, since Jacksonville and Tennessee will face each other next week. Regardless of what happens, both teams are playing each other for the division title next week, and potentially for a playoff spot more than likely, where the winner's in and the loser goes home. And Houston, even though it's not listed here, there are Tank Bowl implications on the line here, because Houston can officially clinch the first overall pick in the 2023 NFL Draft with a loss plus a Chicago win. Well, since I have Chicago losing to Detroit this week, I do not have Houston clinching the first overall pick, but I think Houston puts himself in a good spot. So I think the Tank Bowl goes down to Week 18. But yeah, I got Jacksonville beating Houston in this one, 23-19. Jacksonville by 4 over Houston, and Jacksonville gets some momentum heading into their Week 18 winner-go-home match against Tennessee next Sunday. All right, to our next game. We have the San Francisco 49ers, Las Vegas Raiders playing in Las Vegas. Vegas can be eliminated from playoff contention with a loss or wins from either Miami or the Jets. And San Francisco, they're still potentially playing for the number 2 seed in the NFC with the Minnesota Vikings. So yeah, Vikings and 49ers are playing for the number 2 seed. But yeah, I got San Francisco beating the Raiders. So yeah, I got San Francisco winning 23-17. The 49ers are still rocking with Brock Purdy, and I think Big Cock Brock keeps them rolling. And I got San Francisco winning over Las Vegas by 6. And yeah, I do think the Las Vegas Raiders will be eliminated this week. But yeah, give me the Niners by 6. All right, to our next game. New York Jets, Seattle Seahawks playing in Seattle. Effectively, with how I think it's going to go, the loser of this game will officially be eliminated from playoff contention. So yeah, the way I think it's going to go, loser will be out of the playoffs because Seattle can be eliminated with a loss plus a Washington win, or a loss plus wins from Detroit and Green Bay. The Jets, if they lose, they're out. But yeah, and also for the Jets, Zach Wilson's being benched. Mike White is officially back in as starting QB. And to be honest, I feel like this Jets team is a lot better with Mike White. I think they rally a lot better behind Mike White. And I think that's going to pay big dividends on the road in Seattle. And I think the Jets pull it off in Seattle. I got the Jets winning 20-18. So I got the Jets winning. And I think the Jets' playoff hopes will be decided in Week 18 against Miami. Because the Jets play the Dolphins next week. And if the Patriots lose next week, then Miami and the Jets are playing for the 7th and final playoff spot next week. And since I have Washington winning this week, I think Seattle will officially be eliminated from playoff contention. To be honest, Seattle, you overachieved in a lot of ways this year. And your retooling, rebuild is going in the right direction. You know, and you're going to get a high draft pick thanks to the Broncos being a incompetent shit show. But yeah, I think the Jets will win. I think their playoff hopes will be decided week 18, and I think the Seahawks will be eliminated. So, to our next game, we got the Minnesota Vikings, Green Bay Packers playing in Green Bay at Lambeau. Green Bay can be eliminated from playoff contention with a loss, plus a win from either Detroit or Washington. And since I have both teams winning, that means Green Bay can be eliminated with a loss. Minnesota, they're trying to stay pace with the Vikings for the number 2 seed in the NFC. I got and oddly enough, the Packers are actually favored in this game over the Vikings by 3.5 points. So yeah, it's literally that Week 14 matchup between the Lions and Vikings all over again when Detroit were favorites over Minnesota at home. And then Detroit won that game. I think it's going to be deja vu with that all over again. I think Green Bay will beat Minnesota at home. And I got Green Bay winning 22-20 at home against Minnesota. And I think Green Bay will keep their hopes alive. I have the Packers by 2. And I think there's a really strong possibility that the Lions and Detroit versus Green Bay matchup next week will be for the 7th and final spot in the playoffs, where the winner goes into the playoffs and the loser goes home. But yeah, give me the Packers by 2 over Minnesota. All right, next game we got the Battle of Los Angeles. Los Angeles Rams, Los Angeles Chargers playing at SoFi, the Battle of LA. Of course, the Chargers, they're trying to get seeding in the AFC picture now that they clinched a wild card spot. They could still have a chance to finish in the 5th wild card spot ahead of Baltimore. The Rams, they're just eliminated, trying to get whatever hope they have left in the season. Maybe try and make that pick they gave to Detroit lose as much value as possible. I got the Chargers winning this one over the Rams. I got the Chargers 27-26. I got the Chargers by 1 over the Rams. And I think the Chargers continue their roll to the playoffs and build momentum. So yeah, give me the Chargers by 1 over LA. Over the Rams. All right, now to our Sunday night game. Pittsburgh Steelers, Baltimore Ravens playing in Baltimore. Baltimore trying to keep pace with the Bengals for the AFC North title. Because if Baltimore wins this game, then their Week 18 tilt with the Bengals will be for the AFC North Championship. The Steelers can be eliminated from playoff contention with a loss or a Miami Dolphins win. You know, the Steelers have just been a complete mess this year. They're feeling the pains of not having Big Ben and not having the high-end talent to bail them out. Baltimore, it's 50-50 if Lamar plays or not, but Tyler Huntley's been pretty solid so far, getting the job done to lock them in the playoffs last week against the Falcons. I think the Ravens will keep their hopes of the AFC North alive for another week. I got the Ravens beating Pittsburgh 20-19. I got Baltimore by 1 over Pittsburgh. Now, I think Pittsburgh, despite their efforts the last couple weeks, I think the Steelers have just been delaying what's inevitable. And I think this week we will officially see the Steelers not only eliminated from playoff contention, I think for the first time ever, Mike Tomlin the Steelers will finish with a losing record under Mike Tomlin. And now we get to our Monday night matchup, and this Monday night matchup, it's one of the most anticipated QB matchups we have yet to see until now. Buffalo Bills, Cincinnati Bengals playing in Cincinnati for the first time ever. Josh Allen faces off against Joe Burrow. This is a QB matchup I've been wanting to see for a while. And there's a really good chance that this matchup could be a playoff preview, because I think there's a good chance these two teams are going to meet each other again in the playoffs. But yeah, Buffalo, they can clinch the number 1 seed in the AFC with a win plus the Kansas City Chiefs loss. The Cincinnati Bengals can clinch the AFC North with a win plus the Baltimore Ravens loss. Well, I got the Chiefs and the Ravens both winning this week, so neither team's going to lock either up. So the Bills race for the number 1 seed in the AFC will stay alive for another week. While Cincinnati, I think their AFC North title fate will be decided Week 18 against Baltimore, where the winner will get a home playoff game and the loser has to go on the road. But yeah, this is an interesting matchup. It's going to go either way with both QBs, but in the end, I'm going to go with the better overall team. And in the end, I think Cincinnati will pull up a fight, but in the end, I just feel like the Buffalo Bills are a better overall team than the Bengals on both sides of the ball. I'm going to take Buffalo in this one, 24-22. I got the Bills by 2 over the Bengals. Like, this matchup could go either way. You can make a solid argument for either, but I'm going to go Buffalo by 2 over Cincinnati. But yeah, those are my NFL Week 17 picks. So, I think Philadelphia locks up the NFC East, and the number 1 seed in the NFC. I think the Giants will clinch a playoff spot this week. I think Tampa Bay locks up the NFC South. So, I got the Giants and the Bucks clinching playoff spots this week. And I got nobody clinching a spot in the AFC. In terms of the playoff eliminations, I got the Saints eliminated. I have the Panthers eliminated. I think the Steelers will be eliminated. I think the Seahawks will be eliminated. And I think the Raiders will be eliminated. But yeah, those are my Week 17 picks. That's all I gotta say. And I'll see y'all whenever I make next. And remember, for all the teams still playing in the playoffs, the number 1 goal right now is don't get eliminated.